Hello, you're on the channel Infidelity and Revenge. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do it right now. Enjoy watching. I hate it when she answers my question with a question. Without hesitation, she does it every fucking time. No matter what the question or answer is, she answers my question with a question. She does it every time. Robin, what are we having for dinner? Does it look like what I made? Robin, where do you want to move the chair? Clint, where did I say I wanted to do that? Robin, you look sexy in that teddy bear, how about you ruin the sheets? What, don't I look sexy in my flannel pajamas? Doesn't matter the topic, my questions are always answered with a question. The only time she failed to answer my question with a question was the very last question I ever asked her. What is the question? 5 simple little words with a question mark, but the hardest question to answer. Why should I want to stay? That was the one question she didn't have an answer for. The bad thing was that I knew she couldn't answer that question. Cheaters can never do that. They can give you the typical bullshit. But when it comes down to it, they don't know the answer. It just makes them see the truth. I should have known from the beginning that it would come to this. My marriage was doomed from the beginning. I should have just listened to my father and followed the rules. My father taught me a few rules that a man should live by. Life is fun until you mess it up. If something looks like a duck, walks and shakes like a duck, it's a fucking duck. No bitch is worth dying or going to jail for, so always plan, figure out the best way to get revenge and don't leave any fingerprints. My dad always said that if mom disappeared and her purse was left behind, it was one of two things. She ran away, or he chased her away. If he chased her away, her purse would stay because he wouldn't give her anything. My dad always spoke loud enough for my mom to hear him. Son, she will walk away with what she entered this marriage with and no more. I always wondered what makes a person so tough. It was one of the little life lessons I learned later in life. I've never been a fan of telling my life story, so I won't. But I will tell it to you briefly. I was born in North Texas to a good family, and my dad kicked my ass every day. When I deserved it, and sometimes when I didn't. My mom was the backbone of our family. My sisters Marge and Adeline were always there for me and my little brother Riley. Riley is a jerk, but overall a good brother. Then there's Robin. I met Robin in 8th grade. She had big teenage boobs and for me it was love at first sight. We didn't date until my 2nd year in college. From that point on, she was my girlfriend. For those of you wondering why it took us so long to become a couple, ask her father. This man was like a classic guard dog. If a male came within 1 foot of his daughter, he barked like a damn bloodhound. It took him 3 years to let me sit on their porch, then another year just to call her. And then it always sounded like he was eavesdropping on the phone before she could ask him if I could ask her out. He'd yell, "No." So believe me when I tell you that he surprised the hell out of me when I asked permission to marry Robin, he said. Yes, son, you can. Son, the bastard just called me son. For the last 6 years I've been called a bastard, a fucking asshole, a fucking moron, a dumbass fool, and just as importantly, a king of shitheads. But now I'm his son. Deal with that shit. For me, married life was great, our honeymoon was fucking amazing. Robin wanted to use every aspect of her body, and use it well. I was 22 years old at the time. By the time she was done with me, I was left almost unconscious. Life with Robin was anything but boring. For the next 15 years, life was hard, but good. We worked, we played, we made love, and we had kids. In fact, 3 kids, Dusty, Carolyn and Pete, are little angels. For those who don't have kids, kids have built-in pussy radar. Whenever my wife or I are in the mood and the situation is about to get hot and heavy, their radar goes off. Most of the time, I've only managed to get 1 boob out of her bra before there's a knock on the door. It was in our 25th year when everything blew up. The only thing that kept me from leaving the country was the kids. 2 of the 3 kids were out of the house and the 3rd was headed for the exit. Dusty and Carolyn were already in university, and Pete had just graduated from high school and was going to Nashville. But, being a male child, he just had to party heartily on his last night at home. Pete acted like an ass and tried to drive home drunk. He hit a pole and ended up in the hospital. He was in critical condition. Robin and I rushed him to the hospital. They removed his spleen. He had a collapsed lung and needed a kidney. He needed a donor immediately. The doctor asked if he could do a blood test to determine if I was a match for him. Robin gave us a strange look, like she was trying to figure something out. Then she said, "Shit, shit, shit. You don't have to worry. He's not Pete's father." I backed up and looked at her. I went to grab her, but the doctor stopped me and told me not to do it now. I asked her what the hell she was talking about. The doctor told her that she needed to bring her father here to save Pete. I turned and walked away. Then I stopped, turned back around, dropped my wedding ring on the floor, and walked into the room to see Pete. I could even think about the fact that he wasn't my son at this point. I just wanted him to get the help he needed. When Robin and the doctor entered the room, I turned and walked out. The doctor grabbed my hand and told me I needed to stay. Because Pete needed both of us right now, so I stayed. About an hour later my brother Riley showed up. I was about to go and tell him what was going on when I saw that they had taken his blood. Pete's father was Robin's brother-in-law, my brother Riley. Then he, the doctor and Robin left the room. Riley came in, trying to explain what had happened. I left the room. It was too much for me to handle. When I went out to the waiting room, Riley's wife Kelsey was sitting there with her arms around her head crying. I didn't know if it was because of Pete or because of what she'd found out about Riley and Robin. Either way it didn't matter, both problems were ruined. The doctor came over and asked if he could talk to me for a second. He told me that I needed to pull myself together and be there for Pete and Robin. They were going to need me. I asked him, how do I do that? You're such a big fucking man. Tell me, how can I be there for this slut? Did she just tell me my son is my nephew? She's been saving with my brother for God knows how long. But we've known for at least 18 years because Pete is his son. And what am I supposed to do with Riley? I can't call him my brother anymore. What kind of brother is it that sleeps with his brother's wife and leaves him to raise the kids? But since you're a doctor, maybe you can give me something for that. Maybe you can get me some whore detection glasses. Do you have a pill after the "get this whore and my brother out of my life" affair? Maybe you know a way to erase that whore from my memory. That's what I thought, so get the fuck away from me and try to cure Pete. You can't help my marriage or my life. Doc shook his head, then turned and walked back to Pete's room. I walked over to Kelsey and asked what Riley had told her. She said that all 3 of my children were his children. Riley said that Robin told him that I was infertile. It was new to me, and how could she know? I was only in the hospital for one reason, and I was 10 years old at the time. Something was going on and I needed to find answers. It was 11:30 the next morning before the doctor told us that Pete was going to be okay. Riley's kidney was a perfect match. I was headed for the exit when Robin and the doctor ran up to me just as the door was closing. Robin went to grab me when the doctor stopped her. I would spit in her face. Robin asked where I was going. What about our son Pete? That struck me as funny, our son. I turned and walked away. I got to the house around 2:30 in the afternoon, after a brief stop at the hardware store for a couple sets of locks. I changed the locks on the house. Then I started packing Robin's clothes. I had 4 bags packed before I got the first call. It was her dad, who wanted to come over and talk before I did something stupid. Some people like what I asked him. Come on, Papa, what reason do I have to do something stupid? Before he could say another word, I threw the phone down. As I packed Robin's things, it made me think about Pete and everything that had happened. It made me revisit all the long discussions in psychology class. Nature versus nurture, did Pete's DNA make him my son? Of course, in my heart, he was mine. From the first moments of his life, from his first steps, from the moment he first caught a soccer ball. His first fight, his first date, his first kiss, talking to him about the birds and the bees, all of those things made him my son, didn't they? But, when he really needed his father, the truth was, I wasn't me. When he needed blood and kidneys, both of which I would have gladly given him, I couldn't. At the times when he really needed it, I could only sit there helplessly because Robin turned out to be a liar and a whore. The moment the doctor said he needed a kidney, he was not my son. My family name would continue, but what about my branch of the family tree? There would be no Clint Abbott branch. Of course, there were 7 sprouts on Riley's branch. The 4 children he had with Kelsey and the 3 children with Robin that made Riley the family stud. I had to stop thinking for a while because I was giving myself a vacation. I went to the refrigerator, got a beer, and sat down in my deep armchair. I was just turning on the TV when I heard some cars pull up. I didn't move. I sat there drinking my beer and listened to them banging on the door. It sounded like there were 4 or 5 people there. They had been knocking for about 10 minutes when Robin pulled up. I think it was my dad telling her to open the door with his key. I bet they were pretty surprised when her key didn't work. After I finished my beer, I grabbed my gun off the table, walked over and unlocked the door. I asked my dad what they wanted. My father asked, why, I had a gun. I told him it was to keep uninvited guests out. I asked them again, what did they want? My father was the company rep, he asked if they could come in and talk to me. I told them sure, as long as Riley and Robin weren't with them. Robin was sitting on the porch crying while Riley was about to show me what kind of man he was. That was until he heard me push back the slide on my Desert Eagle. I think that was the moment they realized it wasn't going to go the way they thought it would. So, for the next 2 hours, they blabbed. Turns out everyone knew everything except Kelsey and me. I couldn't believe these people were my relatives. My father, the man who taught me how to deal with my cheating wife, now wanted me to live with her. Strange how being a grandparent can cloud your thinking. Son, she did what she had to do, she gave you the family you wanted. You need to calm down and realize how Robin felt. I didn't do that, and I wasn't going to try to do that. I'm done, screw them all. I will never understand how for a woman wanting a child can be a reason to go out and get laid to accomplish her goal. Is there any difference for a man who wants to have a child with his wife only to find out she can't have one for him? Oops, I forgot that only women can be allowed to cheat under these guidelines. It seems only another woman can understand what it's like to not be able to give birth. I think men don't want families who don't want to watch their baby grow in their couple's belly. They don't experience the joy of taking care of their loved one, their life partner during that time. I guess I'm not a man then. With all the bullshit they were talking, and it was just bullshit, about how I need to think about kids and how to keep the family together. They were giving me all this bullshit about how women can't turn off their maternal instincts when they can't have kids. And about how women are emotional beings and need to procreate. Then they hit me with this blessing from above. That's when I couldn't take it anymore and told them all to get the hell out. She's a fucking cheater, a whore, and bore my brother children. That's a blessing. If it's a blessing, then I need to change my beliefs. Turns out my mom told her I couldn't have kids because I had yellow fever when I was 10. She told Robin, but somehow forgot to tell me. After I put them all out, about an hour later the kids showed up. They told me that Robin had called them, but told them to come to her parents' house first. But they came to the house first. I spent the next hour explaining to them what had happened. I wasn't holding anything back. Carolyn didn't believe it. She called and made an appointment to get blood for DNA testing. Then she was going to see Robin. Dusty said it didn't matter because I was his father no matter what. But he went along with Carolyn's plan because he needed to know. The next day we all went to the hospital and got Pete checked out and then had his blood drawn for testing. After that, Carolyn went to visit Robin, Dusty and I watched Pete for a few hours, and then we went back to the house. Needless to say, the atmosphere in the house was very tense for the next few days. On the 3rd day we got a call from the hospital with the results. Turns out, only Carolyn was mine. There were so many blank shots that Dusty got angry and left because it meant Robin had been a cheating whore since the second year of our marriage. Not 2 years later, 18 months later, she got pregnant by Riley. I filed for divorce the same day the results came back. I gave my lawyer the DNA results. I didn't want 50%, I wanted everything. You see, I'm a firm believer in equal rights. When a man cheats, everyone yells, "Take him to the cleaners." Don't get mad, get everything, but when it's a man being cheated on, it's, "What did you do? Are you sure, maybe it's hormones?" You need to give her some help instead of divorcing her. I can't tell you how many friends I lost in the days that followed. I lost both my parents and relatives because they knew about everything all along. At the final meeting, Robin asked for 30 minutes alone. After 25 years of marriage, 23 years and 4 months of lies, but who's counting? I could have sat down and heard one more lie. Even during our last meeting, everything was in question. "Clint, haven't I been a good wife to you? Clint, think about it, are you missing something? After all the love we've shared, do you really want to tear us apart? I mean, really? Clint, why do you want to leave?" I gave her 30 minutes, but in the end I asked her one question. It wasn't a hard question, but it was the one question she didn't have an answer for. I spent the next 10 minutes summarizing everything that had happened in the last 2 years of our marriage. Then I asked Robin why I should want to stay. Then I got up and left. The divorce was finalized in 90 days. No alimony on my part, no child support, nothing. There was no house to put on the market. I gave the house to Carolyn. I live there for free. When it comes to our finances, I had no job and therefore no paycheck. I quit the day before the DNA results came back. She cheated on me for 20 plus years and some judge was going to make me pay her for it. I don't have any money in the bank. I used it to pay Pete's medical bills. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. The only good thing was that Kelsey stopped by to let me know that my parents, along with Robin and Riley, were planning to ambush me to talk to them and be a family again. Kelsey and I spent the next 3 hours making plans and playing. Riley was stupid because Kelsey had a 38 DDD. I won't tell you what else she had because I wanted to use it again. But by the end of the day, Pete, Dusty and I had to go on a cruise during their visit. When we returned from the cruise, Carolyn informed me that my attorney was ready to file a lawsuit against Riley for 23 years of unpaid child support. We were asking for $350,000 for each child. College, cars and all, after all, kids are expensive. As soon as the suit was filed, Kelsey filed for divorce. I never adopted Pete or Dusty, they didn't want me to. They knew I was a father, if not by blood, then out of love for being there for them. Pete said no one could make a real cuckold out of me just because his mother was a screw-up and I wasn't. Dusty agreed. It's been 10 years, I'm 62, have 5 and 10-year-old kids. My wife Kelsey is 52. Yes. Kelsey told me. I'll never admit it, but I like spending Riley alimony on nice things for my kids, and no, I didn't marry Kelsey out of revenge. It doesn't hurt me one bit to rub our relationship in Riley's face. Robin, well, she told Carolyn that she would wait until the end of time and get me back someday. Even Carolyn laughs at that. My parents are burning holes in Carolyn and Kelsey's ears. Please invite Clint to come visit us, we're going to die soon and he's going to hate himself for not being here. Hate myself for missing the lives of those who wanted to toot my horn by calling themselves my loved ones, but forgive them? That's unlikely. I'll consider forgiving them on their deathbed, but that's also unlikely. I mean, they're 80 and 82, and they have Riley. I have to go, the kids are staying the night with Carolyn and Pete. I'm in anticipation of something special. Tonight, waiting for Kelsey to return. She went to put them in the car and drive them. I think I'll still be in the same mood 4 hours from now. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to rate the video and leave your comment.